Good morning. It's Wednesday morning. I got a bit of an early start this morning, so I'm already a chunk into some work. This morning is going to be the air dash, putting in the functionality to enable the player to air dash. So what I want this to look like is that the player could feed in some jump input, which would put them then here, and then with the conditions not grounded and one charge. So air dash will have one charge with the conditions. Aeroplane going overhead. With the conditions not grounded and one charge, or more than one charge. At this point, if they feed in the air dash input, I want the player to then travel in whatever direction they're facing. So it'll be facing direction, which is, there's a whole bunch of stuff that we already have, because we already have face direction, because that's something that we use in some of our other animations and bits and pieces. So that there's like a bucket of information we can draw on to build this that we just get for free. So we've already got face dir, we've already got grounded, obviously, because we do our own manual grounding checks. We're not using the Unity player controller or anything. So I'd like, they feed in the dash input, the player should then dash to this location. During that travel time, we don't want any gravity affecting the player. I want them to move horizontal to the ground during that dash, which means we need gravity controlled, which we already have because gravity works on a custom gravity component. Again, we're not actually using Unity's gravity. And then at this point, they should then regain full control of their character with no momentum. So we want to brush the velocity off. So we need no momentum, which means we need access to the linear velocity. That should about do it. So not too complex. How I think this is going to work is, there's a couple of niche cases. I did consider originally just having the player teleport to the final location, which is super easy to set the position, and then doing the transition just by animation and just suggesting that they dashed, but actually just teleporting them. That wrecks a whole bunch of stuff because I want fluid object detection during the dash. So if they had a coin on the dash's path, I want to actually detect that on the way through. If there was a wall here, I want to detect that and not dash through the wall. If there was a snake, I want to die if I try to dash through a snake. If there's a wormhole, I want to... So yeah, we need to be able to detect stuff on the path. So the best way to guarantee that we still hit that Unity detection is by just velocity. We're just going to have this thing with all its colliders and its rigid body components and whatnot. We're just going to set its velocity and point it in a direction. It's going to travel along that direction, and then all of our regular systems that already work for the player moving around for its detections and bits and pieces should just continue to work, because we're not doing anything weird. We're just now moving the character. So all of its regular detections should still occur, as long as we keep that velocity under some sensible cap to allow the physics fixed update frequency to be sufficient to detect everything that we want to detect. So we're going to set some velocity, but then to deal with some edge cases, at this point where they feed in, so we now have the X input being fed in, so this is this step here. At this point, we're going to do some checks. So we will have here, we will feed in what direction are we facing. We check where we grounded. We turn our gravity off. So if we assume that we've looked after all these cases and that we have the facing direction, which we're just going to represent with an integer to be positive, negative in one or the other direction. So let's say we have +1 in face direction. We are not grounded, so we've satisfied a not grounded, and we've stopped so in update, where we process all of our steps to make the player move around, we'll skip the gravity one if we're air dashing. So that's easy peasy. At the start of the air dash, we can set, okay, so we've started an air dash. We can set our linear velocity to 0. We can do a raycast. We can do a raycast in our face direction. So a raycast in dir. We do that raycast to the maximum length of whatever our dash is. So now we're adding some dash length. We're going to do the raycast in the direction of however long we want the dash to be. We're checking for environmental obstructions. So we're checking for walls or other tiles or somewhat. So let's say there's a wall here. And we do a thing and we find a wall there. What we can actually then do is decide, okay, so we want some dash time. And we can now determine with distance and time, we can determine our velocity by going, all right, so we know that we're going to dash. We have a hypothetical dash max of this, which might be like 10. We detected a wall at 6. So what we're going to do is we want to dash 6 over some amount of time. I don't know, let's say we set the dash length to like 0.125 seconds and our max dash length to 10. So we now have 6 over dash time, which is 0.125, and we can go linear velocity equals this. So we now know that we are going to apply this velocity to ourselves over some amount of time, and that is going to travel this far, so that we'll actually do our dash and then terminate the dash right before the wall. We will then additionally layer in this little thing that I've used before, which is a check in, so this will be running inside of a coroutine. We will run a check at the end of each coroutine loop, just to check, hey, what is the linear velocity as calculated by the physics system in the last physics step? And if the physics system has tried to dictate to us, we should have a 0 velocity, i.e. we've collided with something, we'll exit the coroutine early. Because the physics system has detected some collision that we didn't account for, so we'll bail out of the dash. So we'll check for physx collision. So what this should allow us to do is still detect everything that happens on our path. It should allow us to have a variable dash distance, as by if we're dashing up against a wall and whatnot. Should allow us horizontal travel to the ground because we're going to neuter our custom gravity during this travel. So that was my plan. And then actually, I got up pretty early this morning and I have actually implemented that. So, with all that being the plan, it ends up looking something like this. We just turn our death wall off by, so we have our character like we usually would, 1 jump, 2 jumps, the spins, and the high jump, and a a dash, which feels as good as it looks. So we've also got 2 visual effects running on it, which is super straightforward again because I'm just reusing stuff from elsewhere and coloring it. So at the origin point of the dash, we leave behind a little dash particles, which I think just helps add to like the launch punch. It also gives you a really clear visual signal of like how far you're dashing, so you can kind of learn that dash distance. The dash distance is always going to be the same. So if I start on this second tile and I dash, I land on the purple. If I just turn around now and dash, I'll land back on that second tile. So we've just done dash distance by 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 6.5 units or so, which seems to feel good because it kind of means you can be on one of these platforms and, you know, be intra-platform with your movement. We can dash into tiles and we stop. We can be sending a tile and dash into it, and it will just push us and muck us about like we would expect it to do. We can be, we have a coin here, so I'm just going to die here, but if I wanted to collect this coin, I could dash through the coin and collect it, which is great. And by that same token, if I dash into threats, obviously the threats still kill me on account of all of our hit detection still working, because of the way that we control our velocity during the dash rather than moving us. Feeling good. That's some good early morning wins. So I'm going to just test that a bunch now, deal with whatever bugs I've created that I don't know about yet.